Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on the life divine with our beloved Ranga. We are continuing in the chapter Progress to Knowledge, God, Man, and Nature. We're on page 713, beginning with the sentence, intellectual knowledge. And we have already done the previous...
the previous para we have read.
We have read and we have
just
done...
Just to give you the reference, I'll just read out the summary again.
We did the summary?
I'll just read the summary so that we know where we are.
Okay.
So, in the previous paragraph, this is what Sylvia is saying. Man, as he is at present, is conscious only of his body, his emotional being, his mental being. Is that his true self? No, it is not. Okay, so is there any link between the supreme reality and man? Yes, man essentially is God, Sat Chit Ananda, but in essence only. He has a soul, a self, which is covered over with thick layers of outer gross substance. The real man is within and above. He is the universal, the transcendent. Man has to reject his identification with the outer being and become one with the psychic and the self. He has to get away from the surface and dig deep into himself to know himself. This is the work given to man in the universe. He has to solve the dark mystery of the Sphinx below and the mystery of the luminous Sphinx above. This is the work given to him, and it is this aim that justifies the pain, the sufferings, the trials and the tribulations in the worldly life. This is what he has said. So now we read the paragraph we have to read today. Intellectual knowledge. So, can we do this work by intellectual knowledge only? He is going to discuss. Intellectual knowledge and practical action are devices of nature by which we are able to express so much of our being, consciousness, energy, power of enjoyment, as we have been able to actualize in our apparent nature, and by which we attempt to know more, express and actualize more, grow always more into the much that we have yet to actualize. But our intellect and mental knowledge and will of action are not our only means, not all the instruments of our consciousness and energy. Our nature, the name which we give to the force of being in us, in its actual and potential play and power, is complex in its ordering of consciousness, complex in its instrumentation of force. Every discovered or discoverable term and circumstance of that complexity, which we can get into working order, we need to actualize in the highest and finest values possible to us, and to use in its widest and richest powers for the one object. That object is to become, to be conscious, to increase continually in our realized being and awareness of self and things, in our actualized force and joy of being, and to express that becoming dynamically in such an action on the world and ourselves that we and it shall grow more and always yet more towards the highest possible reach, largest possible breadth of universality and infinity. All man's age-long effort, his action, society, art, ethics, science, religion, all the manifold activities by which he expresses and increases his mental, vital, physical, spiritual existence are episodes in the vast drama of this endeavor of nature and have behind their limited apparent aims no other true sense or foundation. For the individual to arrive at the divine universality and supreme infinity, live in it, possess it, to be, know, feel and express that alone in all his being, consciousness, energy, delight of being, is what the ancient seers of the Veda meant by the knowledge. That was the immortality which they set before man as his divine culmination. So, the language is a little complex, but meaning is very simple. So, we will read the summary of what he is saying. Okay? Then, if there are questions, we can discuss them. The instruments given to man to express himself in the world are his body, his vital, and his mind. But these are not the only instruments he has. There are other subtler, more powerful, more efficient means hidden within our secret nature. What are they? For instance, the power of direct sight without the use of senses. Even by closing my eyes, I will be able to see. Even by not using my ears, I will be able to hear subtle sounds. So, this is what he means by, so the direct sight, intuition without thought, identification. These are the instruments which are there in him but which he has to develop. Okay? He has not yet developed them. It is up to man to seek, find and use these subtle instruments for better, more powerful and effective action in the world. All the history of man's activities, science, arts, religion, philosophy, is a sign of the seeking. Man is trying to seek for the perfection that he lacks. To arrive at divine universality and supreme infinity was the task set for man by the Vedas. This was what was meant by the realization of immortality. So, man is trying to improve himself, get more knowledge, but at present he is using only his mind, his vital and his body. But there are other instruments beside these three, and that he has to develop in himself. That's what Swami is saying. Okay. And what is the goal? To arrive at divine universality and supreme infinity, which he doesn't have at present. We go to the next para?
Yes.
But by the nature of his mentality, by his in-look into himself and his outlook on the world, by his original limitation in both through sense and body to the relative, the obvious and the apparent, man is obliged to move step by step and at first obscurely and ignorantly in this immense evolutionary movement. So, we'll look at each sentence because sometimes they're very long. Okay. Now, I best point out to you one thing. By the nature of his mentality, by his in-look into himself and his outlook on the world. The English language has the word outlook, but the English language does not have the word in-look. But Srivastava invented the word. But his invention is so clear. So what he means, that is not a problem even if he invents a word. So in-look means looking into himself. What does that mean? You look into your own thoughts, you look into your own emotions. Okay, these are mainly the two things. You look into your own motives and your aims into yourself. That's in-look. But also the outlook, you are looking in the physical world and trying to understand it. The in-look is that of a yogi. The outlook is that of a scientist. Okay? So, this is, and both will give you knowledge. By his original limited, but the problem is that there is an original limitation. I don't see everything. I don't even see what's in the next room. I don't even see what's in the street now. So that's a great limitation. I should be able to see everything. Okay? I don't hear sounds. And even when I hear, I don't hear properly. So these are the limitations, see senses. And the limitations of both through sense and body to the relative. The relative is the physical world. Okay? The obvious and the apparent. Obvious and apparent, the physical world. Man is obliged, because of his imperfection, to move step by step, and at first obscurely and ignorantly, in this immense evolutionary movement. You can't suddenly go to perfection because you are limited, you have to go step by step. It is not possible for him to envisage being at first in the completeness of its unity. Completeness you can't see immediately. It presents itself to him through diversity, and his search for knowledge is preoccupied with three principal categories which sum up for him all its diversity: himself, man or individual soul, God and nature. So these are the three things which he has to understand perfectly well. He has to understand himself. Does he understand himself? No, because very often you act, and when you are told, why did you do this? The answer very often is, I really don't know why I did it. Okay? You don't even know your own motives. Okay? I remember one very interesting, a person who was a close friend of mine. Suddenly she speaks a few words and then says, from where did those words come? Why did I utter them? I don't even know from where they came. Something so obvious. So you don't know what's happening inside you.
And we hear so often, I didn't mean what I said.
Exactly. Exactly. So we really don't know. So much of imperfection is there. Okay? So you have to go naturally step by step. It is not possible for him to envisage being at first in completeness. So finally he has to know three things. He has to know himself, he has to know God and nature. The first is that of which alone he is directly aware in his normal ignorant being. And what is that? Himself. His body, his vital and his mind. And even these three he does not know fully. Okay. The first is that of which alone he is directly aware in his normal ignorant being. He sees himself, the individual, separate apparently in its existence. I don't feel any connection between others, only sympathetically you may feel a connection, but that also not always. Mostly it is not sympathy. So, you don't know yourself and you don't know the universe. So, separate apparently in its existence, yet always inseparable from the rest. So, striving to be sufficient, yet always insufficient to itself. Can man live by himself alone? Not possible. He needs the universe. The universe is giving him air to breathe. The universe is giving him food. The universe is giving him everything by which he can live. Water, food, everything, air. He needs the universe. Does he need society? Also. He needs his tailor, he needs his doctor, he needs his friends. He needs his mother and father, he needs everything. So he is dependent on the environment. He can't live by himself. Okay? In fact, this was the first starting point of the study of sociology. That man is not something independent of himself. He needs to depend on the environment. So what are the rules of that? So that is sociology was not a science before 200 years ago. It has only started 200 years ago. Psychology, sociology, these are all things that came very recently. Okay, so he needs his society and he needs the universe. Striving to be sufficient, yet always insufficient to itself, since never has it been known to come into existence or to exist or to culminate in its existence apart from the rest. He can never exist apart from nature and apart from society, without their aid and independently of universal being and universal nature. He has to depend on universal nature. Secondly, there is that which he knows only indirectly by his mind and bodily senses and its effects upon him, yet must strive always to know more and more completely. He is talking of the universe. So first he must know himself, secondly he must know the universe. Okay? Or nature if you want. You can use different word. Nature is universe. So, and how does he know that? Through his mind and body and the effects the world has upon him. Yet must strive always to know more and more completely. This is what the scientist is trying to do. He is trying to understand the universe more and more. Okay? For he sees also this rest of being with which he is so closely identified and yet from which he is so separate. He is dependent on the cosmos, the world, nature. So they use three words: the cosmos, the world, nature, other individual existences, other human beings, whom he perceives as always like himself and yet always unlike. We are so similar. Human beings are so similar to each other and yet they are different. Okay, so for they are the same in nature, even to the plant and the animal, and yet different in nature. There is similarity and yet a difference. Each seems to go its own way, to be a separate being, and yet each is compelled by the same movement and follows in its own grade the same vast curve of evolution as himself. The rules are the same for all human beings. They are born, they develop, they depend on nature and society, and then finally there is death. Everybody has to undergo the same laws. Okay? There is no difference that way, but still he does not know. Okay, so finally, he sees, or rather divines something else which he does not know at all, except quite indirectly. So, this word, finally he sees, or rather divines. The word divine has nothing to do with divinity.
Figures out.
Yeah, it is from the French word deviner, to guess, to have a vague idea, to have a doubt and to guess in a rough way, manner. Divines something else which he does not know at all except quite indirectly. Okay? Indirectly, what does it mean indirectly? You must also remember, through senses. He can know something directly also without senses if he goes to the intraconscient. From the subliminal, he can, without using senses, he can know things. So that is direct knowledge. This is indirect knowledge. There is a whole chapter on this, the 4 types of knowledge that you have. Okay, so for he knows it only through himself, and that at which his being aims through the world, and that at which it seems to point, and which it is either striving obscurely to reach and express by its imperfect figures, or at least founds them without knowing it on their own secret relation to that invisible reality and occult infinite. So he has to depend on the universe, and yet he does not know the universe at all. Now there is a third thing. He has spoken about man must know himself, man must know the universe, or God, or cosmos, or nature, whatever you want. And now we come to the third one. That is God. This third and unknown, this tertium quid, this is a Latin phrase meaning the third unknown. Okay? He names God. The animal can't think of perfection, can't think of God, but man can, because he looks at nature and sees everything is rain is coming regularly. Who is creating this rain? The sky is there. Who has created this universe? Trees are growing by themselves. Who is making them grow? So he can conceive of God in a very vague manner. That's what I'm saying. This third and unknown, this tertium quid, he names God. And by the word, he means somewhat or someone who is the supreme, the divine, the cause, the all. One of these things or all of them at once. Okay? He could be the cause, or he could be the all, or he could be the supreme, or only one of them. God may be there, but maybe He is not a creator. That also is a possibility. That's what Srimad means by totality of all, or one of these things, or all of them together. You can think of a God who has not created the universe. You can think of a God who has created the universe but not governing it. You can think of so many different types of possibilities. Yeah. So, He is one of these things or all of them at once. The perfection of the totality of all that here is partial or imperfect. The absolute of all these myriad relativities. Okay, everything is relative here. So there must be something absolute. The unknown, by learning of whom the real secret of the known can become to him more and more intelligible. So the more he knows that which he does not know at present, he can become more knowledgeable. Man has tried to deny all these categories. He has tried to deny his own real existence. He has tried to deny the real existence of the cosmos. He has tried to deny the real existence of God. Now this is very strange. All these things exist, and yet he has tried to deny all of them. Who is the one who denies his own existence? Buddhism. There is no such individuality. Individuality is not there. Okay? The ultimate is a shunyam. It's a infinite zero. So the man is not, he is nothing, he disappears. Okay? So, he has tried to deny the real existence of the cosmos, the Mayavadin, the yogin who sees only the Brahman consciousness and sees the world is unreal. Or he denies God, the real existence of God. Who is that? The materialist. There is no God, there is only the physical world. But behind all these denials, we see the same constant necessity of his attempt at knowledge. He is always trying for knowledge. And sometimes very deep knowledge. Buddhism has gone so far, and yet they deny the existence of man and universe and everything. The scientist also, he denies God, but he is looking for knowledge, and he has found so much knowledge in the physical world. Okay? So this is the funny thing, that these things exist, and yet man is groping to find meaning in all these things. So, the real existence of God. But behind all these denials, we see the same constant necessity of his attempt at knowledge. For he feels the need of arriving at the unity of these three terms. Vaguely he feels. Okay? Even if it can only be done by suppressing two of them or merging them in the other that is left. Okay? So to do that, he affirms only himself as cause and all the rest as mere creations of his mind. Okay? Or he affirms only nature and all that the rest is nothing but phenomena of nature energy. Or he affirms only God, the Absolute, and all the rest as no more than illusions which that thrust upon itself or on us by an inexplicable Maya. So again, the three philosophies: materialism, pantheism, and the spiritual Advaita, if you want. Advaita has got many branches. Okay, so none of these denials can wholly satisfy. None solves the entire problem or can be indisputable and definitive. Least of all, the one to which his sense-governed intellect is most prone. So, the intellect has got many parts. So, which is the sense-governed intellect? The physical mind. Okay. Then is the vital governed intellect is his vital mind. And there is the pure intellect which is his reason. Okay. So, it's a physical mind that sees the universe and tries to explain it. Is most prone. You see, in man, the physical mind is the most active, usually. The rational man, reason is the most active. The very active man, the one who is full of action, is a vital mind that is active in him. None of these denials can wholly satisfy, none solves the entire problem, or can be indisputable and definitive. Least of all, the one to which his sense-governed intellect is most prone, but in which it can never persist for long. He is speaking here of the materialist. Least of all, the one to which his sense-governed intellect is most prone. The sense-governed intellect is the physical mind, so he is talking about the physical world. The physical world alone, if you say is true, you will never arrive at truth. It will not even satisfy you. Okay. But in which it can never persist for long. The denial of God is a denial of his true quest and his own supreme ultimate. The ages of naturalistic atheism have always been short-lived because they can never satisfy the secret knowledge in man. That cannot be the final Veda because it does not correspond with the Veda within, which all mental knowledge is laboring to bring out. Okay? So, science is trying to understand the physical world, but he will never understand the physical world unless he knows himself. From the moment that this lack of correspondence is felt, a solution, however skillful it may be and however logically complete, has been judged by the eternal witness in man and is doomed. It cannot be the last word of knowledge. Neither of these, neither Buddhism, nor the Mayavada, nor materialism can be the last word of knowledge. And who is dissatisfied? The eternal witness in man. Who is the eternal witness in man? The self. Partly the psychic being, but mostly the self. The eternal witness in man. So, again, we'll quickly go through the summary and then we'll go to the next paragraph. This unknown third something, tertium quid, he calls it God and attributes to it omnipresence, omnipotence, and omniscience to it. It's his conception, man's conception. Man has attempted to deny the reality of all these three, God, man, nature. He has denied his own real existence, Buddhism. He has denied the existence of the cosmos, Mayavada. He has denied the existence of God, materialism. Okay? Or he affirms only the existence of God, Advaita. Or he affirms the existence of only nature, materialism. But none of these positions can satisfy him fully. Particularly, atheistic periods have been of short duration because the true knowledge within himself cannot be satisfied by these partial, incomplete philosophies. And the eternal witness within man can never be fully satisfied except by the complete truth of things. So they're looking at, he's talking about the knowledge that we have to go to. So these are all steps. We read the next para. Man as he is not sufficient to himself. Now, here is an example.
Is again, yes.
The repetition of two words.
Yes.
Nobody does this. But Srivendra does it all the time. Okay. Man as he is not sufficient to himself, nor separate, nor is he the eternal and the all. Therefore, by himself, he cannot be the explanation of the cosmos, of which his mind, life, and body are so evidently an infinitesimal detail. Okay. If you think of yourself in the universe and you see, what are you? You are just a small speck of dust. I remember one person, it was a student, and that student, we don't feel this all the time. We don't feel that we are tiny beings. Rather the contrary. We feel that I am very important. The ego makes you feel like that. But this person told me one day that I went swimming and I was floating on the sea surface. And I looked up and I suddenly realized that what am I? When you look at this vast universe, you are nothing. So to realize that itself is quite a big experience. To realize that you are nothing at all. Okay, so evidently an infinitesimal detail. Okay, the visible cosmos too, he finds, is not sufficient to itself. Okay. From where does the cosmos come? Who has created it? It's not sufficient to itself. Nor does it explain itself even by its unseen material forces. There is so much of logical step-by-step things that happen. How is it? It's not something that has happened at random. The seasons come very logically one by one. The sun is going round. There is no deviation of its path. There is so much of order. There is so much of law. Who could have done all this? So you do feel that the universe is being governed by somebody or other. But who is that? We don't know.
What about tsunamis, volcanic eruptions?
Even that's another problem that man has to solve. Okay, I can understand order and all this, but what is the purpose of earthquakes? What is a volcano? Why is it destroying? There's so much of creation, but why is there so much of destruction? A God is someone who is perfect. Why should he destroy? There is a problem that has to be answered. Okay, many people will think in that way. Okay, when a very close person, relative or someone passes away, you feel, why is he punishing me? It's very common. It's not at all. I know of a person in Bombay when that COVID came, the husband died, and that the wife, who was a relative, who was a devotee of the mother, lost all faith. How could this punishment be given to me? So much of ignorance is there, and a lot to be explained. So that's what Swami is saying. Okay, so it's so evidently an infinitesimal detail. The visible cosmos too, he finds, is not sufficient to itself, nor does it explain itself even by its unseen material forces. For there is too much that he finds both in the world and in himself which is beyond them, and of which they seem only to be a face, an epidermis, or even a mask. So Srimad has used the word epidermis, which means the skin. So it is the thin, we see only this thin skin, or it's a mask, okay? But we don't understand who has created all this order that is there in the physical world. From where is it coming? But this order is disturbed by, as you said, tsunamis, earthquakes, volcanoes. Okay? Why is all this coming? What is the purpose? So a lot to be explained. Neither his intellect, nor his intuitions, nor his feeling can do without a one or a oneness to whom or to which these world forces and himself may stand in some relation which supports them and gives them their significance. He feels that there must be an infinite which holds these finites, is in, behind, and about all this visible cosmos. Something must be there inside everything, behind everything, or about, all around. This visible cosmos bases the harmony and interrelation and essential oneness of multitudinous things. He sees that there should be a oneness somewhere, but he doesn't see it. He feels it. His thought needs an absolute on which these innumerable finite relativities depend for their existence, an ultimate truth of things, a creating power or force, or a being who originates and upholds all these innumerable beings in the universe. Let him call it what he will. He must arrive at a supreme, a divine, a cause, an infinite and eternal, a permanent, a perfection to which all tends and aspires, or an all to which everything perpetually and invisibly amounts, and without which they could not be. So, the animal cannot think of God, but human beings think of God precisely because he sees imperfection and that doesn't satisfy him. So he wants to see the opposite. So naturally that will lead him to somebody must be there who can create the opposite of all this. If there is death, it is causing so much of suffering. Is it not possible that there is some state where this will not be there? So naturally his thoughts lead him to God. Okay, so Shabda is saying whether he knows God or not, but he is intuitively he feels that God is there. Okay, so I'll read the summary, a very short summary. Man finds that he is not self-sufficient, self-existent. He needs the universe, as he said, he needs his society. He is not a standalone. He is not independent of all else. Neither is the cosmos self-explanatory. Both seem to depend on something else. They are incomplete parts of something much more complete and infinite and eternal. He may call it whatever he likes, but it is the real origin, the final cause, the reason for all else, man as well as the cosmos. It's the supreme, the permanent, the perfect, the infinite and eternal. Call it whatever you want, but you do think that there is someone who is more permanent than all this transient, who is more perfect than all this imperfection, who is eternal and who is omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. So that's a very small summary of this para. So we go to the next para. Yet, even this absolute, he cannot really affirm by itself and to the exclusion of the two other categories. So, he thinks of God, but can he think of God without the universe and without himself? Shabda is saying no. For then he has only made a violent leap away from the problem he is here to solve. And he himself and the cosmos remain an inexplicable mystification or a purposeless mystery. So now, what is he referring to here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, one sentence, and he is saying, yet even this absolute, he cannot really affirm by itself. He is talking of the Mayavada, the one who jumps, the Buddhist, who jumps to only the absolute. Can it exist by itself? Can it explain everything by itself? So they are saying no. Because when you go there, you see the physical world as unreal. You have not solved the problem of the universe. So it doesn't solve. So if you know only God, what is this illusion that I am seeing? So it's incomplete. That's what he's saying. Okay, so remain inexplicable, mystification and a purposeless mystery. If God is the only reality, what is this unreality? It remains a mystery. Okay, I don't know what it is. A certain part of his intellect and his longing for rest may be placated by such a solution, just as his physical intelligence is easily satisfied by a denial of the beyond and a deification of material nature. Let's look at this sentence. A certain part of his intellect and his longing for rest may be placated by such a solution. He is talking of the ascetic. Okay. A certain part of his intellect and his longing for rest, constant movement, constant suffering, constant death. I want the opposite of all this. He wants a permanent rest. So he leaves this and goes there. So he is talking of that. Okay. A certain part of his intellect and his longing for rest may be placated by such a solution. What solution? Going to God alone. Okay. He is talking of the Mayavadin or the ascetic or the Buddhist. Okay. May be placated by such a solution, just as his physical intelligence is easily satisfied by a denial of the beyond and a deification of material nature. So, denial of the beyond is a materialist. A deification of material nature, pantheism. The universe is the divine. That's all. Nature, God is nature. But his heart, his will, the strongest and intensest parts of his being remain without a meaning, void of purpose or justification, or become merely a random foolishness, agitating itself like a vain and restless shadow against the eternal repose of the pure existence or amidst the eternal inconscience of the universe. He is giving an answer to the normal concept in India for a long time that the universe is full of imperfection. You go there. Okay. Go to there and remain there in the But if you go there, the world is not explained. That's what Swami is saying. Void of purpose. Why at all create an illusion? If that's the only reality and the purpose of life is to go there and liberate yourself from the physical world, why was it created at all? Meaningless. That's what Swami is pointing out. A random foolishness, agitating itself like a vain and restless shadow against the eternal repose of the pure existence, the Brahman consciousness. Eternal repose of the pure existence, the Brahman consciousness, which is eternal, static, immutable, infinite, and without features, featureless. So if that is the reality, then why all this multiplicity? Why the physical world? Okay? Amidst the eternal inconscience of the universe. As for the cosmos, it remains there in the singular character of a carefully constructed lie of the infinite, a monstrously aggressive and yet really non-existent anomaly. So it can be either monstrously aggressive. Okay? The physical world is full of death, suffering, cruelty. So it can be monstrously aggressive. The divine can't be here. How can it be? Monstrously aggressive. And yet really non-existent. You can also see it as something non-existent. Okay. Either this or that. Okay. A non-existent anomaly, a painful and miserable paradox with false shows of wonder and beauty and delight. Now look at that. It's a paradox, miserable paradox, but with false shows of wonder and beauty and delight. He is talking of the grandeur of the dawn, the beautiful sunset, the aurora borealis. There is so much of wonder and beauty in the world, but all without meaning. Okay? So, with false shows, all that you think is so beautiful is all false shows. He is talking of the Mayavadin and the Buddhist who decide to leave the physical world. Or else, it's a huge play of blind organized energy without significance. Who is he referring to? The materialist. Or else it's a huge play of blind organized energy without significance, and his own being a temporary, minute anomaly incomprehensibly occurring in that senseless vastness. Okay. Man doesn't understand from where he has come and why he is here. That way, no satisfying fulfillment lies for the consciousness. So, even if you are a yogi and you go to God, the physical world is meaningless. If you are a materialist, you can't even explain why you exist and from where you have come. So what's the solution? You have to get all the three. That's what Swami is aiming at. You must know yourself, you must know nature, you must know God, then the whole plan of existence becomes clear. And there is a meaning to everything, and the world is not a meaningless thing when you know all the three. Okay, so his own being a temporary, minute anomaly incomprehensibly occurring in that senseless vastness. That way, no satisfying fulfillment lies for the consciousness, the energy that has manifested itself in the world and in man. If you choose any one of these, the mind needs to find something that links all together. So, if you link all the three together, man, cosmos and the transcendent or God, man, nature, then there will be meaning and purpose. Something by which nature is fulfilled in man and man in nature, and both find themselves in God because the divine is ultimately self-revealed in both man and nature. So only if you understand all the three, you will find that there is a purpose and a meaning in existence. So, I read the summary. But is this permanent enough by itself to satisfy man's search for meaning and knowledge? Only if you think of God, does it explain anything? Can that infinite stand by itself without reference to man and nature? All three seem to need an integrated explanation. A part of man may find fulfillment only in God, transcendent of the universe. Another part, the physical, may be easily convinced of the sole reality of the universe. But in each case, some other parts in man remain without satisfaction. Man has a soul, a mind, a will, a vital, and a body with senses. All must find fulfillment integrally. Man must account for all three together if an integral satisfaction has to be attained. That's what Swami is aiming at. Until now, man's quest for knowledge has been either this or that or this, one of the three. Sometimes even two. But he has never found a real solution yet. For the meaning of existence, you have to combine all the three. An acceptance, a perception of the unity of these three categories is essential to the knowledge. Knowledge with a K cap, okay? The integral knowledge. It is towards their unity as well as their integrality that the growing self-consciousness of the individual opens out, and at which it must arrive if it is to be satisfied of itself and complete. For without the realization of unity, the knowledge of none of the three can be entire. Their unity is for each the condition of its own integrality. To understand each one integrally, you must understand all the three, he is saying. Only God you cannot understand unless you understand nature and man. Only man you cannot understand if you don't understand the other two. It is again by knowing each in its completeness that all three meet in our consciousness and become one. It is in a total knowledge that all knowing becomes one and indivisible. Otherwise, it's only by division and rejection of two of them from the third that we could get at any kind of oneness. Man, therefore, has to enlarge his knowledge of himself, his knowledge of the world, and his knowledge of God, until, in their totality, he becomes aware of their mutual indwelling and oneness. So, note the word indwelling. In man, there is nature and also the divine. In the divine, there is nature hiding and individual hiding. Okay? So, the mutual indwelling. Each one is in each. For so long as he knows them only in part, there will be an incompleteness resulting in division, and so long as he has not realized them in a reconciling unity, he will not have found the total truth or the fundamental significances of existence. You will never know the meaning of existence unless you know all the three. This is not to say 718.
718.